I'm gonna do the second of these videos that are chronicling just what I have found that has actually been super, super, super helpful in my own process of maturation, and the skills that I have learned that help me navigate being a person relating with other people in society and the world and its many mystical dimensions. So this one is straight out of process work, baby. Love you, process work. And it's called framing. Framing, putting a little frame around what it is that you are perceiving, right? But essentially it's just like calling it how you see it, or calling it how you feel it, or just literally verbally expressing what is going on for you and your perception of what is going on in general. And 2 points about this are, number one, it is surprisingly challenging. It is surprisingly challenging to just say what you feel and to say what you see and for say what you perceive in the situation. And number two, it is surprisingly effective for many, many reasons that I will go into shortly. It is surprisingly challenging. It is surprisingly challenging just to call it like you see it, just to say, verbally get the words out of your mouth and say the hard thing about what is going on for you. We are so socialized out of doing this. And instead we live in these fields of mixed messages that are never spoken. And what's crazy is mixed messages breed more mixed messages. So let's say you're with a person, you're a special, intimate person, and you say, hey, I really want to go for a walk. I feel like I need to be alone right now. Which is already like, claps to you, you did a really hard thing and asked for what you need. Brava. But let's say you say that and they're like, okay. Doesn't this happen all the time? And what do you do in that situation? Well, I know what I do is like, oh, I mean, I don't have to. I mean, I don't know. Like, never mind. It's okay. I don't have to. Or like, you know, whatever. Or I'll like go for the walk anyway. And the whole walk, I'm like, the fucking, and they just, and I can't even like, I can't even be in this relationship. Or I'll just bury it. And then like 2 weeks later, I'll be like, fuck you. You're always like this. This is how we live. It's so nuts. We live internalizing and adapting or like getting mad or whatever instead of being able to do this framing thing. And this is the secret of why framing is so challenging, because what it is actually asking us to do is to go inside and say, what am I feeling? Because maybe we're very good at framing on the outside. It's like you're sending mixed messages. But can I actually go in and say, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? And take space and time to check in and say, hey, I feel like you'll be mad at me if I go. That's really hard for me. And then, you know, it doesn't matter so much what they do, whether it's mixed messages or not, and that's something for all of us to navigate in relationship and decide, you know, what's right for us and what isn't. But we will have done the hard thing, the mature thing, the counterintuitive thing that actually leads to adulting, which is to have checked in with our own emotional experience and verbalized it. Which brings us to point number 2, is that it is surprisingly effective. Because what it does is it brings collective awareness and responsibility to what is going on. And let's say for a lot of the people in my life right now, if I'm like, hey, I'd like to be alone, they're like, yeah, for sure, go for it. And it makes the difference, the effective difference between me being able to have time alone and me not having time alone. And being replenished by that time alone, or feeling resentful towards everyone I'm with because I did not ask to have some time alone. Right? Like, I'm sure you've all had that experience where you're in like a car with someone and you get the feeling that they don't want to talk, but everything in our society says you're supposed to be talking all the time because we live in a tyranny of relationships. And so it's like, oh, you know, I'm gonna start conversation and they're gonna get all mixed messagey, and then I'm gonna get all mixed messagey, and like it's just gonna be like a really tense interaction in the car. As opposed to being able to say, what's going on for me? I don't know if they want to talk right now. And fucking asking, hey, would you like to be quiet right now? Or do you want to talk? It seems so simple, right? But it's so counterintuitive. But just saying that, it clarifies what is happening. It clarifies, and then you can make just an agreement of like, okay, we're not gonna talk, or oh, you actually do wanna talk, but you're feeling shy. Whatever, you fucking know. And you can act accordingly. The other great thing about framing is I used to think that in order to be clear, you had to be completely one thing or the other. That you had to be completely yes or completely no. Completely I want to be alone, completely I don't want to be alone. And that was maturity. Was to be entirely yes or entirely no, or know exactly what you wanted and to ask for it. And this thing about framing is that clarity and communication just means naming the different things that are there. So you can say, one part of me wants to be alone, one part of me doesn't want to be alone. Which is a situation I find myself in all the time. And that in naming it, in bringing forth, making transparent, and making known my internal experience, I then allow the field and the system's intelligence to kick in. And someone can say what they feel, and then we can negotiate from there. So clarity is not being singular. Clarity is just naming the different things that are going on and sharing it with the system. And you don't need to know the answer all on your own. If you don't know if you want to be alone or not, maybe the other person has an idea if they want to be alone or not. Like, straight the fuck up. Clear communication is not about being one thing. Clear communication is about being complete and honest. And I don't know, this was huge for me. Maybe you guys already know this, but this was fucking huge for me. Like, this sounds crazy, but just start talking. Like, someone's like, hey, what do you want to do? And it's like, I don't know. One part of me wants to go to the bathroom, one part of me wants to get something to eat, one part of me wants to go to this party, one part of me just wants to go home and go to bed. Like, if you just start vocalizing your experience, it makes it this shared field thing that moves whatever happens next. Anyway. What it does is it actually allows for more intimacy, and an intimacy that comes from completeness and truth and honesty, because you're showing yourself. You know? That's who you are. You're all those things in the moment. You're someone who wants to be alone and not be alone. You're someone who needs to go to the fucking bathroom and, like, you know, might want to go to the party or not. But that's you. And then you're giving the other person an opportunity to interact with that. Which brings me, I promise, to the final thing about this, which is that naming things gets it out of your body. That weird thing in the car when you don't know if someone wants to talk, like, that goes into your body. That affects you bio, psycho, spiritual, physiologically. All of this mixed message fields that we live in all the time take a toll on our system. Like, one of the most effective uses of framing that I have found, and this is gonna sound ridiculous, but I swear to God, it has, like, saved my health. Like, I might be immortal because of this trick, which is if you go into a room, let's say, and there's some people, and it's a weird vibe, you can frame and say, weird vibe. Like, I know that sounds ridiculous, but I can't tell you how much internal suffering those two words have afforded me. Like seriously, just saying, a weird vibe. I mean, normally, if I'm in that situation and I don't address what's going on, and then I just act weird trying to make the vibe less weird, I'm gonna go back to my fucking room and just, like, whip myself into a frenzy with my inner critic because I was acting like not, you know, congruent or something. But I was responding to this field of the weird vibe and just saying, hey, weird vibe, does that magic where it makes it not my responsibility, not in my body, not about me. It makes it collective and known, and then, you know, people are gonna respond however they are, but you fucking named it. You named it. Cheers. So in the spirit of framing, I don't know if that's clear at all, but just naming things is surprisingly challenging and surprisingly useful. More tips in complicated fields of internal dynamics that have contributed to my personal self-maturity in ways that are difficult to articulate, even though they are surprisingly straightforward ideas, coming soon on the Mariah Carina Show.